Welcome to today's broadcast. My name is Colleen Patterson, and I am the Director of Employer Services and Compliance at Savoy. It's hard to believe we are closing out week 3 of quarantine and telecommuting. As I've said the last 2 Fridays, we have made it through another week together. So far this week, we have been joined by Wendy Ebner, Chris Hanley, and Keith Zuckerman, who focused on health carrier allowances and changes in rules in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New York markets. Today, though, we really wanted to focus on specialty benefits. So to address these questions, I'm joined by Michael Castrillon, who is the Director of Specialty Benefits for all of our markets here at Savoy. Michael, what do brokers need to know about what specialty carriers are doing to help during the pandemic?
Thank you very much, Colleen. And I'm glad to be kicking off the end of week 3 with what specialty carriers are doing. And it makes sense because the specialty carriers really took their time in gathering their approach to the pandemic and how it was going to impact their employers. They really took a methodical approach to it because, as we all are dealing with uncharted territories, they really didn't know how it was going to affect everybody. So all the specialty carriers really were late to the game. It wasn't until around March 10th that carriers actually started coming out with any kind of communication, which really put us on our heels to begin with. But their first message was very clear and concise. We're here for you. We are sufficiently staffed, and we will not be impacted from a customer service standpoint throughout the crisis. So that kicked it off, and every carrier seemed to follow suit right behind the first ones that came out with that message. Since then, the pattern has been very similar. The pattern has been very specific in where carriers are waiting to see what everyone else is doing. And in general, the tone has always been that they're going to be as flexible as possible. Every stage of this process has been in the best interest of the employers and in the best interest of the employees. Carriers are starting to realize that this is going to impact their clients and our brokers. They're beginning to realize that some very difficult decisions are going to have to be made in the weeks and months to come. And considering the fact that specialty benefits can be considered a luxury, these carriers are having the realization that if things need to be cut, it's going to be specialty benefits. And the message that I've been hearing loud and clear from all the carriers is we will do anything to help our groups retain their coverage. Because in these trying times where people are dying, people are being laid off, people are being disabled, these are where this benefit really has some value and really can be the difference between life or death with a lot of our clients. So the undertone of the message that the carriers are giving us is retain the coverage. Do whatever is possible to retain coverage. We will work with you. We will make it happen for your employees, but it's vitally important that you retain this coverage. Carriers began to extend grace periods for premium remittance. So if you have a 30-day grace period normally, it's now a 60-day. If you have a 45-day, it's now a 90-day. Basically, every carrier has fallen into line, and they've doubled their grace periods. Then, as things progressed and the carriers got deeper into the weeds of this pandemic, they started recognizing the fact that these employees are being laid off. But in order to help maintain coverage and consistency for the employees for the foreseeable future, most of the carriers that we work with have come out with messages where they've extended or they've eliminated the actively at work provision. So if an employee is reduced hours below the full-time employment eligibility, they can maintain the coverage. If they're laid off or they're furloughed, there is a period of time. For each carrier, it varies a little bit, but generally speaking, through the beginning of May, every carrier has allowed employees that have reduced hours to maintain coverage without lapse in coverage. There are a handful of carriers that have brought that date out to July 1st, but essentially what these carriers are doing is they're trying to make it as simple as possible. And most of the carriers are pointing to their layoff provision or their leave of absence provision that's already embedded in the contract. The purpose for that really is they don't want to have to go through the amendment process. And they figure that if we point to the layoff provision or the leave of absence provision, at least buys them time so they can figure out an efficient way to extend that date if possible. Now, most recently, carriers have started coming out with notifications regarding renewals. And this is just an appreciation of the fact that this pandemic is becoming reality for an extended amount of time. So again, in an effort to sort of fly under the radar, a lot of these carriers are saying through August effective dates, we're going to renew all policies as is without any increases. Every carrier has identified groups under 500 lives as being the benchmark for this. But essentially what they're saying is if your group renews from May 1st to August 1st, we are going to extend a rate guarantee for another year to avoid any undue pressure on them going forward. Obviously, this doesn't preclude the employer from shopping the market and seeing if they can get better. But again, the idea is just to be flexible, recognize the impact of this crisis and what it's having on its clients, and they just simply want to be flexible in how they proceed. Now, with all that said, and all the accommodations that the carriers are making, every single one of the carriers has been very specific. If an employer is forced to terminate the plans, meaning the entire contract is terminated, not just employees are terminated off the plan, but the contract is terminated, carriers are warning groups that doing so will create a lapse in coverage. And now it becomes a much bigger issue because embedded in a lot of these specialty contracts are provisions that protect both the employers and the carrier. So if a disability contract has a lapse in coverage, now all employees are subject to pre-existing conditions. If a dental plan has a lapse in coverage, now most members are now subject to waiting periods or deferral of benefits. For life insurance, there might be evidence of insurability issues. Carriers have made their message very clear. They will accommodate any group and they will work with any group that maintains their coverage. Once the group terminates coverage, there's going to be obstacles that employer has to overcome in order to reinstate the plans. And this seems to be very consistent among all of the carriers. So it really is important to contact the specialty department and try to strategize with us on how to maintain the coverage, even if it's reducing the overall benefit so the cost goes down. But eliminating it altogether could have dire effects as we recover from this crisis. So, Colleen, that's all I have at this point regarding what the carriers are doing regarding the COVID-19 crisis. There is one other item that I wanted to follow up with you on because we don't have our normal access to brokers on a regular basis. But July 1st, 2020 actually is the culmination of the TDB benefits that are changing in New Jersey. So it is important to get out, especially now since we're talking a lot about disability and sick leave and family leave. These changes that are going forward on July 1st are going to have a major effect on our employers. And we have a very small window of opportunity to move the state insured employers over to a private plan. So I do encourage all of our brokers to contact the specialty department so we can help them do that. That's
Okay.
all I have.
Great, thank you, Michael, and we greatly appreciate the insight. And the information you had gone over was absolutely tremendous. So there's a couple of things that Michael had mentioned that I just want to make sure that I point out. The timing for the New Jersey TDB, he was saying definitely make sure that if you're interested in taking a look at the alternatives to that, make sure you reach out to the specialty team by July 1st. And it's really great to hear that the specialty carriers are being flexible in premium grace periods because they've extended them in most cases. And there is a hold on renewals, although it's temporary, there is a hold available. And the main goal is to keep folks on the plan. So they have removed the actively at work provision. So very key things. So thank you so much for the info. A couple things that go right ahead, Michael.
No, I was just going to highlight one more thing because carriers are really pointing to their online services. Many people don't really think about online practices available through specialty, but there are some value provisions that everyone needs to be concerned with. The first and foremost being the most popular right now is employee assistance programs. They are available through many of the disability programs in the market. As well as the life insurance. But the one thing that's really starting to gain steam in this whole situation is the online vision providers, where you can actually have eye exams and order glasses. So check with the carriers. Many of them have been touting their online access as well.
Excellent, thank you. Just a couple things I wanted to go over before we close for today. As a reminder, we are hosting a webinar on Monday, April 6th at 11 a.m. and we will be focusing on how the CARES Act affects clients. Specifically, we want to address what the federal leave laws are, interactions with state law, and the Paycheck Protection Program, which is one of the many loan programs that's administered by the Small Business Administration. Definitely want to make sure, though, that if you are interested in attending, please be sure that you register because seats are filling very quickly and there's only a few left. As always, should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your dedicated Savoy team and continue to use the resources that are available in the COVID-19 section of our website at savoyassociates.com. We thank all of you for your continued support and partnership. And please keep the feedback and the questions coming, and we will continue to live our mission to empower our people and our partners while serving with integrity and respect. From all of us here at Savoy, stay healthy and safe. Thank you for joining us today.